Okay, so now that we have finished the plan resource management process here in the 6th edition of the PMBOK from the crowd training, let's review the inputs, outputs, tools, and techniques of this process. Well, one, we were going to start with the inputs, obviously, and those begin with the project charter. Now, the project charter, the reason that we include that is so that we understand what is expected of the project, what are we going to look at, what's for, kind of what are we going to need, resources, people, and machinery, and things, and all that kind of stuff. So the project charter is one, and obviously two, we need to know what are the plans, what are we expecting, and what are we needing. And as you know, I like to draw these little file folders to represent the project management plan, because there's lots of plans in there that are important, including not only the scope to know what work needs to be done, but also, don't forget, the quality, because what kind of resources do we need? Like, for instance, do we need really good computers or servers, or really good apples, or whatever the resource of physical nature is? And the people, like, what kind of skill sets are we expecting? What kind of quality expectations are there? And another input is going to be the documentation, like the schedule. When are we going to need these resources? How many of these resources are we going to need? So I'll draw a little Gantt chart here to kind of represent, what's going on schedule-wise, and the requirements, documentation, things like that. Also, as you are well aware, we are a product of our environment. So maybe there are rules, maybe union rules, maybe there are just requirements or restrictions that are just part of the environment in which we work in. And then that would be our enterprise environmental factors. And then if we have any templates that are used, maybe even some binders of things that have been done, but those are our organizational process assets. All right, those are the inputs. Now, let's move on to the tools and techniques. Well, using the resources, or knowing, we should have some experience or some knowledge or some understanding or just some thoughts. Maybe just there's no real reason to it. We just sort of know from our history, from our experiences, that we're going to need some expert judgment or subject matter expertise, however you want to think about it. But what is it going to take? What resources are going to be necessary? And we're continuously thinking about that throughout the project. What is it that is necessary? How is it best to utilize and work with these various different resources and get the most out of them and be optimal there? So that's one. And the other would be various different ways to analyze what we need. So we have data analysis. Those could be things like a RACI chart that we talked about, that are talking, or even our org charts, right? If you're thinking about who do we need, how are they going to report to, and this could even be just, thinking about, well, if we have this equipment and these needs, how do they match up? There's various different ways we can organize and think about the resource needs of the project. Also, if we're dealing with people and organizations, we're going to have some organizational theories that are going to come into play, how people work together or not work together, also to virtual versus on-site, those kind of also play. So there's many different theories that I won't get into obviously here, because we went through those at another time, but those are things that you need to consider, because that's a tool and technique. And a lot of times we have to talk about these needs, whether it's in face-to-face or a presentation or just any other kind or form of meeting. So those are the tools and techniques. And so now finally, let's move on to the outputs. Well, if the whole point of this is to plan our resource management, by no surprise, we should have as an output our resource management plan. Pretty obvious. And that goes into that big file folder referred to as the project management plan, because it was part of that. But also, beyond the resource management plan and how we're going to deal with it all, you may, with the human aspect of it, the human resources, you might set out some team charters. That team charter is laying out some of the ground rules or expectations of how we want our team to work, our expectations, meeting etiquette, any of those that you want or not want to include in the management of the resources throughout your project. And then likewise, you're probably going to need to update the various documents, because one example right there is if we're saying this schedule needs various different resources at different time, well, now we should be saying these are the resources that we are planning to use at X number of time. And now it might be just a role, maybe an actual person's name. In any case, it is needing the project documents to be updated. So pretty simple. That is the plan resource management process of the 6th edition from the crowd training.